I'm Steve Lockard, Superintendent for Carroll County Public Schools, and this is Report Card on Education. I'm happy to be joined today by Steve Wernick. Steve is the Director of Elementary Schools for Carroll County Public Schools. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Glad you're with us. So today we're going to talk all things elementary schools. We have 22 elementary schools in Carroll County, and you've got a big, broad, all-encompassing job. And as a former principal, an elementary principal, I know you know some of the challenges, but also some of the rewards of the work that happens in our elementary schools each and every day.
Absolutely. Transitioning to my new position has been very actually rewarding. I've enjoyed it. I'm getting to know the schools, getting out to meet with principals and assistant principals and other staff, really understanding the school's needs, their successes, and also some of their challenges that they may face.
Very good. So let's talk a little bit about the focus in our elementary schools. We're a little more than halfway through the year now. Hard to believe. You know, we're on that sort of that big, long slide down to the end of school, and a lot happens during that time. But a lot has happened in the first half of the year. Let's talk about the focus for elementary schools this year.
Absolutely. We have several focuses. Been out in the schools, meeting with principals, ensuring that we review local and state data, really looking at what are the individual needs of the school, of the students, of the population that they're serving. We're unpacking also the student and educator survey that's part of the MCAP report card, and looking at that to see where are students really excited about school and their parents, as well as maybe what are some issues that they're seeing so that we can address those in a collaborative setting. I've also really looked at building capacity with our building administrators. I'm looking at transformational leadership, allowing others to be jointly engaged in the leadership and the decision-making process. So as I share that with principals, with our assistant principals, I'm hoping that they're going back and sharing that process with their staff, with their parents, as well as their students, so that everyone is engaged in the decision-making process. And then thirdly, I'm really looking at that alignment, that instructional alignment across all elementary schools, really looking at enhancing instruction, looking at consistency across our schools, and ensuring that, the school improvement plan really relates to the department plan as well as our strategic plan and actions within our county.
I appreciate the connection there to the county strategic plan, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. But you touched on a lot of very important things, everything from achievement data to climate and culture survey feedback, which is really important. The culture and climate of our schools, we want that positive, welcoming, caring, nurturing environment where all kids can thrive, to building leadership and developing leaders across the system, building those relationships, with our staff and our school community is so important for our schools, all those pieces to be successful, and I appreciate you touching on those. So let's talk about the school improvement process a little bit. What does that school improvement process look like at an elementary school or at the elementary level?
Absolutely. It really should be cyclical, and it really doesn't end. We think that it starts at the beginning of the school year, but really it starts continuously. We're looking at data throughout the year. We're monitoring progress. We're ensuring that we're creating goals and that our goals are able to be adjusted based on our data, based on their survey results, and ensuring that we're meeting some of those goals so that we can then develop other goals. Throughout this process, schools usually have a summer retreat where they're really refining their goals, looking at previous data. Then they're meeting monthly within the school improvement team meetings. And that's really where the bulk of the information comes from. Formative assessments, they're looking at their assessments weekly, they're taking that data, they're bringing it back to the school improvement plan team to really look at their goals. And then within the grade levels, they have their weekly meetings, either Kid Talk meetings, or they may have department meetings or planning time where they're really looking at their individual students. They're really looking at their grade level data, which then reflects back to the school improvement plan.
Very good. And so we know that the school improvement process is so important to our ongoing success. It's not a once a year check in and see how we're doing, but rather an ongoing sort of, you mentioned that formative check. We're looking constantly to see, because we only have students for so long, and we don't want to wait too long before we decide something's working or not. And so there's a lot that goes into that school improvement process, and I'm glad you spent a little bit of time talking about that. So let's tie that and connect that to the goals of the elementary division's improvement plan as well as individual school improvement plans.
Absolutely. Well, I first would like to start to really talk about our Performance Academy and the success that we've had both in the fall and in January with those meetings, bringing teams together from each school to discuss individual student needs, looking at individual data, and then really taking that back to ensure that it's part of their school improvement plan, part of the monitoring plan that then relates to our department plan as well as our strategic plan. So as we look then at our department plan, which is really an elementary-based plan, we're really looking at a comprehensive alignment across the schools and across the strategic plan. And within that, we're really looking at increasing students' reading levels, especially at grade 2 and 3. So increasing our students' reading levels in grades 2 and 3, which is really an integral part of their learning. And it's a process where all students are able to ensure that they're able to read at the level that's most beneficial for them. So there are some students that may be reading on grade level. There are some students that may be reading above or below grade level. But it's our job as a school system to ensure that we're meeting their needs at the level they're at and then increasing their reading levels so that at some point they are on that on grade level. Our second initiative in our department plan is really increasing our writing and ensuring that students are writing to task, that they're writing appropriately for their grade level. And we really want to see that that's consistent across grades 2 and 3 so that as they continuously write within the sciences or as they get to middle school, that they're able to formulate their ideas not only, in their minds, but also be able to put it onto pen and paper as we expect within, the community and the jobs that they may want to explore. And then the third piece is really increasing our mean scores in students from grade 5 within our math benchmark. And that's really looking at what are the skills and the practices that they need to have to ensure that they're ready to meet the demands of middle school.
Fantastic. I appreciate you taking a minute to describe some of the broader goals that we have across the elementary division as it's tied to our strategic plan goals as well. A lot of important work happening in our elementary schools, and those really tie into some of the goals that we have for middle school and beyond. So let's talk a little bit about kindergarten. Now is the time when parents begin to think about registering their children for kindergarten for next year. So let's talk about where it all starts in elementary school in either pre-kindergarten or kindergarten. We'll go with kindergarten for now. When should parents begin to think about registering their children for kindergarten for next school year?
Well, it's never too early to really start thinking about it, but officially our registration week starts March 9th through the 13th. Any parent can come in at any time after March 9th to register their student. And we should first, though, call the school to make sure that there is time available because we really want to meet with these parents. We want to ensure that they're able to register their students, to answer their questions, to ensure that they have a smooth transition as they're registering their kindergarten students because many times this is the first time that they've stepped in a school in quite a while. Parents need to be able to bring with them several documents to ensure that it is a smooth transition. As they register, they should first ensure that they have their birth certificate or any other legal document to verify the child's legal name or their birth date. They also need to verify their residence, such as a current utility bill. Examples may be gas, electric, water, or even a current lease agreement that includes the service address or their house number. And thirdly, a specific address from which the child will be transported to and from school. We always know that that is so important because many times, children are coming in, they're nervous when they start school, and we want to make sure that they get on the right bus or that they're transported to and from school appropriately based on the parent's decision. Next thing is really the immunization records. They must be completed and returned to school prior to the start of the school year. So if a parent does have those and they're available to provide them during registration, that's wonderful. But if not, know that they are able to complete that prior to the start of the first day of school.
Very good, Steve. Well, that is coming right up very quickly, those dates to begin registration. And as you said, parents can certainly do that anytime after the March 9th start date. And of course, as a school system, we always want to see those folks sooner rather than later because that helps us with planning and preparation for the coming school year. So appreciate you sharing that information. There are wonderful things happening in our elementary schools. You heard a snippet of that today from my guest, Steve Wernick, Director of Elementary Schools for Carroll County Public Schools. We have outstanding teachers and staff and administrators working in our elementary schools, delivering outstanding curriculum and program. And we're fortunate to have your leadership in our system as you support all 22 of our elementary schools and the work that happens each and every day. So I appreciate you being here today, Steve.
Thank you.
Once again, my guest has been Steve Wernick, Director of Elementary Schools for Carroll County Public Schools. I'm Steve Lockard, Superintendent for Carroll County Public Schools, and this has been Report Card on Education.